I got a serious question. Am I the only one who has a bad feeling about this weekend? Like, there is not feeling great about a game. And I think everybody's at that point, by the way, right? And there's no Browns fan in the world who's like, oh, yeah, we're going to roll into Baltimore and with this offense, destroy the Baltimore Ravens. Well, not roll into Baltimore. Baltimore's going to roll into Cleveland. We're going to destroy them, right? You know, all the things that would make you believe that have broken over the last couple of years, right? There was hey, Kevin Stefanski, he's always good in the division. And that's still like probably the only levy standing of Kevin Stefanski, of like all the things that Kevin used to be able to throw out there that justified keeping him because he gave you a floor on how bad you can be. This is still the one thing, I guess, that you can hang on to, which is that Kevin usually does perform well in the division because of all the things that went wrong last year. The Browns still performed relatively well in the division compared to, well, when you look at like what their record was, right? For a 3-win team to beat the Ravens and to beat the Steelers is pretty good, relatively speaking. And it feels like this is the last thing that's standing, right? And all of the, well, you know, a Stefanski coach team isn't going to do this, right? It used to be Stefanski coach teams don't lose 2 games in a row. Stefanski coach teams don't get double-digit losses, all this stuff, right? It's been just getting pushed away as time has gone on and as those levees is broken. This feels like the last one left. And I don't know. I know most Browns fans don't feel good about this game, and I think I'm not alone in it. But I feel like this is going to be bad. Like worse than I think some people are anticipating. Hopefully I'm wrong. You know, I don't like to be in this space where I'm negative and I feel like I have to be negative because of what the information is. Like I would much prefer to have some hope here, but I really don't. And I think that boils down to just the matchups on offense for this Cleveland Browns team are in such an unfavorable position that I find it hard that this team's going to be able to find success, especially when you consider that the 2 quarterbacks we're going to have active are both rookie quarterbacks. And I don't think that that's going to be a successful strategy versus a team like Baltimore. There are a number of reasons why I don't feel great about it. Some of these more obvious than the others, right? You know, I've talked about the matchup problems that Baltimore has with most teams and how those problems really don't exist for the Cleveland Browns. We could go back to the first time that these teams matched up and how bad the matchup problems created that week made a guy like Joe Flacco look. And really think about that. Like, look at what Joe Flacco's doing now, even if you consider it's with Jamar Chase. And look at how Joe Flacco looked in this offense and really ask yourself, do you think any of the quarterbacks on the Browns roster are better than Joe Flacco? I don't think the answer to that question is yes. I think the answer to that question is yes. Joe Flacco wouldn't have been the week 1 starter, right? Joe Flacco was the week 1 starter because they thought Dylan Gabriel was not better than Joe Flacco, because they thought that Shedeur Sanders was not better than Joe Flacco. So if you're telling me that you don't think that these guys are better than Joe Flacco, and Joe Flacco looked how he looked when he went up against this Ravens defense, albeit it was their home opener. They had Ray Lewis on the sideline, and it was them. They were celebrating 20 years or whatever it was, 25 years, 20 years, 30 years, whatever the fuck they were doing. They were celebrating it. So you can make the argument that there was just way more juice on the sideline for the Ravens. But when you're playing them this time, sure, Ray Lewis probably not going to be on the sideline. Sure, it's not a home opener, but the Ravens are in win now mode. Like they're going to be playing playoff level football for the rest of the season because they really can't afford to lose more than 1 or 2 games. So yeah, it's not the same situation, but I feel like the juice could be similar. Which brings me to the title of this video, which is given everything that looks like it's about to be in line, is it possible that we see Dylan Gabriel start another game for the Cleveland Browns after this point? We'll talk about that in just a second, but I got to thank my sponsor for today, Sleeper. All right, so it's that time where I do my picks for the week on Sleeper. Make sure you want to join the fun. You use promo code WORSTTAKE, get a 100% match on up to $100 when you use the promo code WORSTTAKE if you're in an eligible state. Now, my picks this week, we won last week. I'm a little confident, so I added an extra one in there just for the hell of it. Remember, when it comes to contests like this, always play them responsibly. What I think is going to happen this week, I think Lamar Jackson, they say his combined pass and rushing yards number 250. I think he'll get above that. Jerry Jeudy, I'm going with the anytime touchdown on Jerry Jeudy. I'm going with over 3.5 receptions for Jerry Jeudy. Dylan Gabriel, longest rush, 7.5. And Quincy Judkins over 2 receptions. Look, this was a tough week to come up with picks. I'm not even going to lie. Because I did not want to go with production picks because I'm not very confident in how this offense is going to look. So I tried to stick to picks that are more about, for the Browns at least, either like an individual moment, like a longest run, or things like how many times do you get a reception, right? I don't know how many yards these receptions are going to go for, but I do think that will happen. And then I threw in the anytime touchdown there for Jeudy just because, it makes sense. They've been emphasizing him more and more into the offense. It makes sense for them to get him the ball again. And then Lamar Jackson, 250 yards total. I think Lamar's probably going to have a big day here. I just don't anticipate the Browns offense to be able to keep Lamar off the field long enough to where it starts to not matter. Well, where him getting like all these extra swings at it isn't going to start mattering. So that's my picks. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. But if you want to join the fun, make sure you join Sleeper and use my promo code WORSTTAKE to get a 100% match on up to $100. So Dylan took over the season with 13 games left in the season to go. Now, what this means is that I know some people have been asking, hey, look, is it possible that we get an even amount of games for both Shedeur and Dylan? And the answer to that's probably no, right? If there's 13 games left when Dylan takes over, Dylan gets 6 starts and Shedeur finishes out the season, then presumably Shedeur will get 7 starts if he stays healthy, which will actually be more than Dylan Gabriel got. If Dylan Gabriel continues to hang on and plays an extra week after this week, and then that's 7 starts, then obviously it's 6 starts for Shedeur. The only way for it to be even is if Dylan Gabriel gets this start, gets benched for the rest of the year, you push Shedeur Sanders in, and then you play like Bailey Zapp the last game of the year, which I wouldn't rule out the realm of possibility. Maybe that's exactly what the Cleveland Browns do. Also, injury going to play a role in that, right? Like Shedeur, we'll see what his body holds up to. If he becomes the starter, that's going to be a different standard, right? He's going to probably play through some injuries that maybe he wasn't going to play through when he was the backup. Maybe some things that kept him out of games before aren't going to keep him out of games because he's the starter. Maybe that changes for him. But both of these guys there's going to be an uneven amount of starts for most scenarios that you could point out, given that, Dylan took over with 13 games left in the season. So the question is there a chance that Dylan Gabriel can remain the starting quarterback after week 11? I really find it difficult to believe that Dylan will make it past the 49ers game specifically, right? Like, I think if we get to week 14 and Dylan has not been benched and he is slated to start against the Titans, something's up behind the scenes. Either Shedeur looks awful or the Browns like, or Kevin Stefanski has some kind of beef with Shador Sanders, right? Like, that would scream doghouse to me if we got to that Tennessee Titans game, week 14, and we're not hearing that Shador is going to play or not, right? I would put Shador watch if you want to see Shador play. I would put that and start that after this Ravens game, right? Because more than likely, what I'm assuming is going to happen is Dylan's not going to look good in this game. There's a number of reasons. I talked about it. The matchups are bad. Jerry Jeudy on Marlon Humphrey. That's not a great matchup for Jerry Jeudy. All this stuff, it feels like a really bad matchup for the Cleveland Browns. I hope I'm wrong. I hope the Browns are much more competitive and give me something fun to watch at Sunday at 4:25. Unfortunately, I don't know if that's going to be the case. So we'll see what happens, with how the Browns operate in this game. Now, there is some good news if you're looking at this game. I think Denzel Ward is going to play. Alex Wright is not going to play, and I think Malik Collins is questionable to play. So at least you're getting Denzel Ward back. My question at this point for the defense is, like, how much motivation is there going to be for the defense to hold the Ravens offense like they did last time? I think you got to be self-motivated, right? But I think the energy that they went into that Ravens game with earlier in the season, where they were talking junk and they were ready to, point out some holes that they felt like the Ravens have, it's been noticeably absent this week, right? I don't think they're as excited to play this game as they were earlier in the season. And maybe that's for obvious record reasons, but I don't know. It all just combines to give me a really bad feeling about this one. I don't ever want to say that I think the Browns are going to get blown out, because that's not the kind of person I am, right? But I don't feel great about this one. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm just 100% super wrong. And I know some people are going to be hoping I'm right just for draft position, but like, the Browns could win 3 games and get whatever draft pick they want. I'm not really like super focused on that. Like, I don't think the Browns need the number 1 overall pick to solve their quarterback problem. I think the Browns just need a top 5 to get a quarterback in this draft. So I'm not going to be tripping about a win here in November, especially a win versus the Baltimore Ravens. Like, you can kiss my ass if you want me to be mad about that. But I've had a lot of games where I'm not sure if the Browns could do it. There's been some games where I felt like, I remember before the Green Bay game, I was like, there's a path to win it. The 49ers game, I was like, there's a path to win it, right? But this one, I don't see the path, right? Maybe I'm wrong here, but I don't see the path. I think this being Tommy Rees's second game as a play caller is going to be interesting, because now they have his tendencies on tape, which could aid Baltimore. Zach Orr is not a great defensive coordinator, so keep that in mind, right? Like, so maybe there is some hole there, but I don't know. Y'all let me know. Try to give me some optimism in the comment section if it's possible, because I don't feel good about this one at all. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Have a great one. Have an even better day. Peace.